Hello friends and all you Drag Race superfans, my name is EJ, and yes, I am another person in the LGBTQ community who's talking about Drag Race on YouTube, but I want to do an interesting spin on this video. I want to defend a season that is often overlooked, that it was once the most hated season. Yes, we are going to be talking about Season 7 of RuPaul's Drag Race and why it is much better than you remember. Over the past couple weeks, I did something that I think most Drag Race fans love to do. I looked back at an older season of RuPaul's Drag Race, and I went into it full-on 2015 mode, where I was sucked into Season 7 again. Yeah, I still found time to do it, even though All-Stars is airing, and then there's Canada versus the World, Global All-Stars is right around the corner, Mexico's maybe airing, or Spain, and then I think France just wrapped up. There was a lot of Drag Race happening, but I still found time to venture back to one of my personal favorite seasons. Saying Season 7 is a personal favorite used to be the hottest of hot takes. This was a season when it dropped in 2015, people absolutely hated. There was multiple reasons for it. We were coming off two amazing seasons with 5 and 6, and now looking right after this, maybe this wasn't as bad even at the time. So I wanted to take this video to celebrate Season 7. This was a season I thought had so much to offer, and I never understood the hate when it aired. It was either, I will say the winner, looking up some articles from 2015, was not as contested as I thought it was going to be, but overall, this season just didn't seem to grab people the way other seasons did. And as we look on, it was kind of a joke of a lot of the Drag Race fandom and even the queens themselves. There was a moment during one of the All-Stars, I think, believe 3 or 4, when they're like, oh, I hope no Season 7 people show up. That's the most boring season.
It went straight from 8 to 6, so we're skipping 7. Let's all praise the Lord for that.
Hey, Jizz. Oh.
What are you talking about? When I go through the roster of people who were on this season, when I go through the challenges, when I talk about what actually happened, this is far from the worst season. Is that a bit of hindsight now that we've had some god-awful seasons of Drag Race? If you remember, I did a video about season 14, I believe, on my channel, which is the most viewed video on my whole channel, where I talk about the problems, how bad that season is. Yeah, I never made that for Season 7 because the season was never that bad. So throughout this video, I'm going to start off by saying why it's not that bad, while it has aged better than most people think. I'm going to spotlight the all-star cast that this had. Truly, we could make an all-stars just off the queens from Season 7. And then I want to talk about some things you maybe forgot about this season. There's a lot that happens in Season 7, like the domination of Katya. I remember being a Katya fan, but I forgot how good she did this first run. Yes, join me for this video. Thank you guys for subscribing. Thank you guys for commenting. And if you are a Drag Race fan that wants to see more of me talking about it, make sure you guys let me know down below. Now let's get into the video and talk about Drag Race Season 7. This was once the most hated season. If you look at some of the early reactions, early reviews, people were not having it. And it's also, again, the butt of the joke from even the fandom. But in comparison, I don't even think this is as bad as Season 1, Season 3. I think Season 8 is much worse right after this. Season 8 has some of the, this season you're starting to see it feels a little bit quicker, a little bit tighter of an edit, which is fine. But Season 8, it feels like it's the shortest season that they've ever had on Drag Race. So I was like, okay, why was this so hated? I do think it is coming off some seasons with, Jinx and Bianca Del Rio as the top contenders. Those are absolute legends in this industry, and not to take away from our eventual winner, Violet Chachki, who is an absolutely amazing queen, but I do think that there was a bit of a hesitation with this season. I don't remember exactly what it was, but people weren't connecting, and you could say, oh, it's the challenges. The Shakespeare episode does not have as bad as reviews as you remember. It is a bad challenge. Shakespeare, the actual performances, it's horrible, but it's a fun episode of television. You also get the great, Jasmine Masters and Kennedy Davenport lip sync, which is, oh, I love it. I Was Gonna Cancel by Kylie Minogue. Amazing song, amazing lip sync. So yeah, that episode is not as bad as you remember. It is a bad challenge, probably one of the worst acting challenges, but a bad acting challenge. One happens on every season of Drag Race. Let's all be honest, these acting challenges are horrible, and this one at least was entertaining. It at least gave us something to sink our teeth into. This season also had a narrative I loved, the old school versus new school. That was such a common thread, and I don't know if that's where some of the tension for fandom or some of the tension with the actual queens themselves stems from, but I thought that was such an interesting narrative. We had the old school kind of mentality with people like Kandy Davenport, Ginger Minj, Mrs. Kasha Davis, Jasmine Masters, and then you had such new school queens like Trixie. We had, Miss Fame, Violet Chachki, Pearl, these very, white, skinny kids who were just very good at fashion, but they all had something a little bit more to offer. Except for Miss Fame, who I do love, but lasted a lot longer on the season than I think Miss Fame should have. Yeah, overall, I just never understood the exact hate, because I think the season has an overarching storyline, new versus old school. That's exactly what we want when we're watching reality TV. A storyline to follow. I don't think the challenges are as bad as other seasons get. I think it's a tighter edit. It's an easy to watch season. I don't know why I thought this was going to be such a drag to get through, but I'm halfway through the season and I'm just like, oh, it's almost done. Like, oh, we're nearing the top 4 already. So it's paced wonderfully, which I think some seasons have been paced too fast. There's some seasons that go too slow, and there's people who aren't eliminated for half the season. So, in comparison, season 7 was not that bad, but even when it aired, I don't understand why people hated it, because they had a gaggle of amazing queens that feel like an all-star cast. Just on this season alone, you had future legends of RuPaul's Drag Race and drag history like Ginger Minj, Pearl, Violet Chachki, Miss Fame, Katya, Trixie. You also had fan favorites on the show that kind of live within the fandom like Mrs. Kasha Davis, Max, and Jaidynn Diore Fierce. I cannot believe this roster was once hated. These are amazing people. Like, Jasmine Masters, we had no idea was going to become the internet sensation that Jasmine was. Trixie Mattel was now one of the richest drag queens in the world. We never expected that. And Katya was beloved here, still beloved now. It frustrates me because I never understood why. Do I want to see a bunch of, Twinkie people be hot and mean? No, that's kind of the one half of the cast here, but the other half was like the bitter old lady brigade, which they admit to. So, I see some faults in the characters that are here, but as queens, I cannot believe that we once just looked down on this season. Kandy Davenport alone is more talented than most people who even try to audition for the show. Kandy Davenport is a dancing diva who's great at comedy with really good pageant style fashion. Then you have Trixie, who was really funny, really inventive. Trixie felt so fresh at this time. I think, now we see the outlandish makeup, the costumes, the kind of kitschy, self-aware vibe that Trixie offered here, but my goodness, it felt so original. And then you had Katya. I was looking at some of the older reviews. A lot of people really wanted Katya to win because of the relatability. There was nobody, and I think rarely has there been, even after, a queen that feels so easy to relate to. Though that does, open up the door to people, trauma dumping on Katya at a meet and greet. Please don't do that because you feel relatable to Katya's story, but at the same time it felt like a human being. It didn't feel like a reality character, and I love an outlandish reality star, an Alyssa Edwards, Tiffany New York Pollard. I love these kind of insane figures, but Katya just felt like a real human, just trying to do drag, just trying to be entertaining, and I think that's why we all fell in love with it. Then again, Ginger Minj. I thought Ginger Minj was the for sure bet to win this season. Established. I'm from Florida, so we heard about Ginger Minj. If you live here, very good pageant styling, but really good at comedy. Wasn't afraid to get messy, wasn't afraid to get weird, like the John Waters challenge. I can talk about the John Waters episode, my favorite human being ever. I've interviewed John Waters. My goodness, what a privilege and what an amazing thing to see on the season is seeing the queens embrace the different stylings. Kandy Davenport does great in the John Waters challenge, a pageant person doing well, and then you see the beautiful ones struggle with this episode as well. That's why they're in the bottom. My goodness, just what a great gaggle of queens. And then the winner, Violet Chachki. I know Violet is somewhat polarizing, somewhat controversial, not to deny any of the issues you may have with Violet, but as a queen, the burlesque aesthetic, the fashion, the knowledge of fashion, the care for actual other art forms as well. Violet may have her thing, I don't like this, but Violet never seems that outwardly mean to another person. I've seen other people in this drag race space be like, I don't like people with beards, I don't like people with mustaches, and you're like, shut up. Even if like Violet says that, there feels like a bit of irony, a bit of sarcasm there that I never take serious. But Violet as a winner, what a trajectory this season. Never was able to spot it. Even in the edit, Violet never feels like the winner. But then you look at the 2-in-1 look at the beginning, and then you look at the storyline arc of going from the kind of self-absorbed young, beauty queen almost in a way, and then to this kind of more well-rounded character by the end of the season. That is an arc not a lot of people get through. What's Bianca Del Rio's arc on her season? What's her trajectory? She doesn't have one. What's Bob the Drag Queen's? Doesn't have one. Jinx Monsoon is, the underdog bully coming up. We had Sharon Needles, the freak, the one that doesn't belong. We had Tyra Sanchez. Tyra had a story, sure, maybe. BB Zahara Benet doesn't have one. I love a winner with an arc, with a story. I think Jinx, I think Violet, I think Sasha Velour, I think some of these queens, and I love a legend coming in and sweeping up the competition. You have like Sasha Colby, who came in later on, was like, well, that's the winner. Bianca Del Rio, you knew that was going to be the winner just watching it. But people like Aquaria, people like Violet, there's this kind of underdog nature to them in the edit of the show, where you don't expect them to do as well as they do, and then they surprise us. So with our all-star cast, with our amazing winner, I think this is such a good season. But this is a lot that's happening. So I want to name you guys some things that happened, some of my highlights, some of the best moments, and why I think this is something you need to watch back on, because there's a lot of things I even forgot. First and foremost, amazing Ru looks. I love the overall aesthetic of this season. I think the challenges are strong. We have a great fashion challenge that opens up the season. Then with the naked episode, we have Shakespeare. We have a pretty solid snatch game. Maybe not one of the best snatch games, but the Little Richard, the Adele, Susie Orman, Big Ange. These are characters that I thought were pretty damn funny in their run of snatch game.
I had a rough childhood, okay? I wasn't watching Batman and Robin.
So we have good snatch games. We have a good aesthetic. The RuPaul looks are insane. The guest this season. I mean, having Ariana Grande and Demi Lovato kind of at the early heights of their career was a pretty bold grab. But again, you have people like John Waters. You have, Jessica Alba, who was a pretty big deal. There's these like names that you're like, oh, RuPaul's Drag Race is starting to get almost like these big A-list celebrities that are just unheard of. Like, again, not to denounce any guest judges before that, but it feels like season 7 and what we were eventually going to do with like, Gaga coming in for season 9 and things like that. You're like, wow, we're really building up the name. People want to be on Drag Race. And that's where I think season 7 really starts that shift of people wanting to be on the show, wanting to have their little time to shine here. And it's really great to see. So again, we have all this. Little challenges I love and I don't remember. The Despy Awards are not bad. I usually hate the award show challenges. The Despy Awards are great. I love the low-key dominance of Katya throughout. Like, you kind of see it in, the lip sync that Katya has where she murders Frisbee Jenkins, the former Sasha Belle. Wow, just that slow spit, amazing. There's good lip syncs throughout the, I was gonna cancel. I kind of like the I think we're alone now with the double boob one. I love, Trixie and Pearl's messy lip sync. My boyfriend's watching this for the first time and was shooketh when Pearl was saved and Trixie went home, just because he knows the Trixie lore that is now. Yeah, this season has twists and turns that you may not remember. I love the Wackadoo Hello Kitty episode. Y'all may think them wearing the little Hello Kitty hats were stupid, but then when they had to wear cans in another season, that is far worse than wearing a Hello Kitty outfit that they had to make themselves. I love Russian Hello Kitty. I think Katya did really well that Hello Kitty episode, but that last outfit, you can kind of see Katya tapping out. I love the run of this show. I love the attitude, the energy throughout it. Yes, there is some bickering between the generational gap, but by the end of the season, that's not there, and it's just a group of queens who are strong, wanting to make the best that they can do. I love that kind of final 5-ish, where we have like Trixie, Ginger Minj, Katya, Miss Fame goes for that position, Violet and all that, Kennedy. It's such a good, strong last gaggle of people, and then the final episode changes the whole format of the show. They do the performances, which we got called out for the season before it, where Bianca Del Rio never had to perform a single time on the show and ended up winning. Now we saw winners have to, our potential winners do these performances. We had the Violet Chachki with Daddies, and then we had Pearl with the Sleepwalking. We had all these kind of fun things, and we got to see them perform. Violet Chachki ate them up in this episode. This is where I was like, Violet's definitely a better performer than we remember, and I needed that to solidify that win. Again, good story structure, good way of making our winner feel validated by the end. I think Violet is one of our best winners we have out of all of Drag Race, just purely on the show. Outside of the show, the controversies, the personality stuff, I'm not really here to judge that about Violet, but on the show, Violet earned that win so well because she just slayed it. Again, but everyone slayed it. It's just such a good season to watch. I love defending season 7 because I feel like nowadays it's a little easier. This was maybe, even if I filmed this video 4 years ago, could have been a hotter take, could have been more of like a now, but maybe you guys agree with me. Do you think season 7 is much better than we remember, with things like the great queens, the amazing stuff that we see from the challenges, the fashion, the runways, the guests, or do you still think this season is boo-boo garbage? Let's talk about that in the wrap-up. All right, everyone, that is it for my defense of Drag Race season 7. We are on season like 17 million right now, and I cannot believe Drag Race has grown even more than what it was when I was a fan at season 7. It's amazing. We have global all-stars, an Olympics of drag basically this year. So much great content, so many great winners since Violet Chachki as well. What a wonderful time to be in this fandom. Am I exhausted by Drag Race? Sure. Am I exhausted by Drag Race content creators as well? Once Lee Dawson kind of gave up on this, I was just like, baby, what are we doing? We've lost up the patron saint of our Drag Race content, but I'm here back wanting to talk about a show I absolutely love and defend a season that was often overhated. What did you guys think of this video? What do you guys think of Drag Race season 7? Share your thoughts down in the comments below. Subscribe to my channel if you want to see more Drag Race content that is coming up for you. If you want to see more from me, make sure you guys subscribe, like, thumbs up, and let's talk about Drag Race right down below.